I'm Katie with Illinois Moms for Change. I'm so excited to be here with Kina Collins today, who is running for Illinois Congressional District 7. Kina, this is a busy race. We have 13 candidates for District 7. Why don't you start about telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we can talk about why you've chosen to run.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a really big fan of the page. I am a daughter of this district. I live on the west side of Chicago. This district is massive. It is what I like to call the Chicago seat. It's all of the west side of Chicago, all of downtown, swings to the near north side, and then the south side of Chicago and parts of the western suburbs. And this was a district that I was born and raised in, and it's a district that my dreams have been planted in. I got my start as a youth organizer in gun violence prevention work. So that has been kind of the work that I've done. I was the executive director for the largest gun violence prevention nonprofit in the state called One Aim. Illinois. I served on the Biden-Harris transition team for Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. So this has been my life's work, and it spanned from community violence that we deal with in Black Chicago to mass shootings to things like police brutality, right? I was on the front lines for direct action for Laquan McDonald and Rakia Boyd and so many others, tragic stories that we've heard throughout the years. I'm running because we're at a watershed moment in American democracy. I mean, this is go time. It
Right.
is do or die for a lot of people. And I think that we need a representative who gives a damn about the folks in Illinois 7, who's going to run a campaign that isn't going to accept any corporate PAC money, who's going to fight for environmental justice, and who's going to say no to endless wars happening across the globe, and that we need to abolish ICE. We need to say that with our chest. This is not my first rodeo here in Illinois 7. Actually, in 2022, I came very close at toppling the 30-year incumbent in this
Mhm.
district. And now we're back to finish what we started because we don't abandon the movements that we build.
I love to hear that. I was going to say this is not your first time running in this race either. So this seat has been full since 1996, but you've run for the same position a few times in the primaries, right?
Yeah, the landscape of this district is so complex and complicated that I think, and when I say we, if I mention we, I mean my political organization and campaign. I believe that when you run these campaigns, you don't run by yourself, you run with your community. The progressive space in this district knew that it was going to take a couple of runs. Congressman
Mhm.
Danny Davis was a titan, like he was a giant in the west side of Chicago. And kind of lost his way towards the end of his political career, where he started to accept more and more corporate PAC money and started to slow down a lot. And we wanted to really see that action and change in the district. And so this fight for a lot of us in the district started all the way back 6 years ago.
Mhm.
And when I first ran against Representative Davis, he was taking 73% of the Democratic primary vote. And now that he is retiring, he's barely taking 50%. And it's because we have dragged this district to the left on a lot of issues that people care about. And so I'm really proud of that, building one of the biggest field operations this district has seen in a generation. And like I said, finishing what we started.
That's amazing. It's amazing. So I know you talked about the district a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about why you're excited to represent the people there.
I mean, I am biased, but I think Illinois 7 is the coolest district in the nation, not just in Illinois, in the country. We have the most beautiful skyline in the country in this
I'll
district.
give you that. I'll give you that.
But the people, this district represents a microcosm of the United States. It's some of the most affluent neighborhoods in America and some of the most working class neighborhoods in America. And even the most affluent areas in the Illinois 7 believe in the rising tide, that when we do well and we do good by other communities and we pull folks up, then everybody rises with them. And so I've just seen the goodness and the hearts of the people across Illinois 7, the grittiness, the tenacity for them not to give up, to push back against this Trump administration who has made our district ground zero for these ICE raids. The Broadview ICE facility is right
Mhm.
here in the Illinois 7th Congressional District. And to see the mutual aid, the direct actions, the rapid response, and how we
Yes.
wrapped our arms around the immigrant community. It just makes me proud to one day represent Illinois 7.
Yeah, that's amazing. There have been so many people in your district doing so much work to support their communities. It's been amazing to see the organization that's happening, how quickly people have gathered around the community is really amazing and inspiring.
Yeah. Illinois 7, just as a little caveat,
Yeah,
is super diverse. It's one of the most diverse districts. We have Chinatown and Greektown. We have Little Italy and the Austin community. We have Oak Park and West Englewood from the south side of Chicago. And so this is one of the most diverse districts in the United States, and yet one of the
mhm.
most unequal. And so we feel the sting when we get that unequal side of it, and people want to stand up and fight back. And I've just been really proud of them for doing that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Why do you think it's important for the people of Illinois to have a strong leader in this role?
Listen, Illinois is the safe haven of the Great Lakes.
Yeah,
We are the state that is protecting reproductive rights. We are the state fighting for common sense gun safety legislation. We are the states that pulled the coalition together to ratify the ERA, right? We come from a state where when they tell us to sit down and be quiet, we stand up and we speak louder. And in a sea of battleground states around us that have turned Republican, I'm just really proud that we are holding our ground. And
yeah,
so I think that we need a strong leader, one, because Democrats should be building an opposition party to the Trump administration. They constantly talk
yeah,
about the middle of America. Illinois is the middle of America. And a lot of the things that are wildly popular here in Illinois are wildly popular across the country. And so I think we could serve as a blueprint on how to push forward progressive policies, how to build diverse coalitions, and really how to build our party back up from the bottom up.
what would your top priorities be? Like, how would you? There's so much happening, and there's going to be so much time spent on repair, first of all, I think. And then there's going to be so many things that we want and we want to strive for as Americans to be able to live our best lives. How would you decide? What are you going to focus on first? What are your top priorities? How would you manage that?
You know, this has shifted for me. In previous election cycles, we focused on things like environmental justice and
Hmm.
affordability, things that are kitchen and tabletop conversations for a lot of working
Hmm.
class families. My priorities have shifted into protecting our democracy. I
Yeah,
think that in these next 2 years, we're going to get a lot of pushback. If this was the first year of the Trump administration, I can't imagine what the next 3 years are going to look like. And I think that what we need to do is start building up organizers, a
hmm,
grassroots movement, and neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, street by street. And we need to focus on that as a Democratic Party. Once again, to become an opposition, you have to be strong enough. Your messaging has to be strong, your people have to be strong, your fundraising has to be strong. And so that's what I'm going to be focusing on. How do we turn Illinois 7? We know a Democrat is going to win this seat. How do we turn this district into the organizing hub of the Midwest? Organize people, organize money, organize narrative. And protecting democracy is at the forefront. And whether that's litigation, whether that's throwing down in the streets and protests, whether that's building up mutual aid in our communities, that's what we're going to do until we usher in a new administration, right?
hmm.
And we
Right.
start to pass this common sense legislation. But I think we need to get serious about how to equip our communities on how to push back on a lot of these things and be on the offense instead of the defense.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really important. Do you have any advice or what would you recommend for people who are looking to start building that community now in your district and across the state?
Such a great question. I think that we oftentimes look at these problems and they're really big problems,
Mhm.
right? They're huge and it looks insurmountable and it looks really hard. The greatest influence you have is in your circle of people. And so I think it's important for folks to start taking inventory of their friends and their families. Are you registered to vote? Do you have a plan to vote? Do you know your neighbor who lives next door to you?
Mhm.
Have you started a block club party? Have you started a Know Your Rights campaign out of your living room? Right? I think that we look at these things in a very complex way. when our power is in numbers around the people who love and trust us and who we can really influence. And not enough conversations are happening about how we could be activated in those spheres and circles. And so we call that's just in organizing terms. And this is me putting my organizer hat on.
Go for
That's
it.
called relational organizing, right? So the great campaigns that go on, the Zoran Mondamnis and the AOCs
Yeah.
and all the people who we paid attention to, the
Hmm.
reason that they were so strong is because they were able to activate those micro bases of people and get them to activate their bases. And so I say that once you start changing and influencing the folks around you, you're going to feel that power and you're going to feel empowered. And then we can start branching out to the way bigger issues. But
Yeah.
if you go out there and you try to tackle really big issues by yourself without a community behind you, it seems impossible and it gets discouraging. And so find that courage in your circle of people, educate them, love on them, and little by little start to build up that power in your circle of influence.
I love that. That's great. Thank you for that. So like we mentioned, this is a very busy race. We have 13 candidates. What do you think helps to differentiate you from some of the other people running for the same seat?
Hey, I mean, I actually am so proud of the progressive candidates in this race. They all have amazing platforms and they're saying, all the right things and they're running really hard and inspiring campaigns. And so I always have respect for first-time candidates and people who put
Mhm.
themselves out there because it is a really tough thing. The thing that differentiates our campaign, and we've seen this in the polling, is that we have the highest name recognition of any candidate, the progressive candidate in this race, right? And this comes down to a law of averages. It comes down to timing because
Mhm.
our primary is almost 50 days away, nearly,
Right.
right? So
Yep.
it's very close. People are going to look at those names on the ballot that they know, and they're going
Yep.
to associate their vote to that. And so we're running a turnout race. We're turning our base out. We know that we have a solid base in the district, and we know that we need to continue to expand that coalition in that base. There's not much daylight in a lot of what the campaigns are saying, but here's what I will say. Our campaign has taken the hits. In 2019, I called for the abolition of ICE. And in 2022, when we started to get close to win this seat, APAC came in and they spent a ton of money trying to stop me from getting the seat. They called me a defund the police candidate. And the reason why is because I called for the abolition of ICE nearly
Right.
6 years ago. And they said that I was unsafe for my community and that was a dangerous policy. And now we're seeing what ICE is doing in our community. And in 2024, I got arrested with 134 other activists calling for a ceasefire. Um, and and people thought that was controversial. And look at what has happened.
Right.
Endless lives, innocent people being bombed, being killed, being maimed in a war that we should have deployed diplomacy instead of bombs. And so really what our campaign has is integrity, credibility, and we have a track record that the voters in this district can trust that is a progressive track record. And we've been quite ahead of our time which I like to say a lot of Black women are, right? Like Black women have an instinct about us because we are some of the most vulnerable populations of people,
Yep.
and we know what's going to happen when bad policy is enacted. And so we've taken the hits and have been unafraid to do that. And that is the mentality and the fearlessness that I'm going to take with me to Washington, D.C. I think that the person who wins this seat needs to be an individual who has the political intuition and also the political courage to get these things done. And I think the voters in the district know that.
Thank you so much. I love that political intuition and political courage. That's couldn't sum it up better myself. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing to see you throughout this primary race.
Thank you.